Hello, hello, hello. Oh my gosh, it's been a while since I did a video. I'm talking to you today completely honest, completely like this is impromptu. Call this a download, if you will. I am literally sat here in my little office in Egypt, melting because it's pretty hot here. And I wanted to do a video to start to talk about why things in life don't go your way. And this is a subject that I've been studying for like years and years, going back to like stories, from my life where you have to start looking at things and saying, these are not coincidences, why did it happen this way, what's going on here? And we come up with these kind of like rationalizations as to why things happen to us. And the rationalizations are often things like, well, that was just a coincidence, or that person did that to me, or it was their decision that caused this, or I was completely out of it and I had nothing to do with it, but yet he was still the victim. And the interesting thing about all this is if we stay in that mindset where we don't feel like we are the ones creating our experience, we will constantly be disappointed. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. We'll be constantly disappointed with the results that life is giving us when we feel that we have no control, or we are using, when we consider like we fail or something's not gone right, we're using the lies we tell ourselves that something was outside of ourselves. And really, generally, what it is, and again, this is just my opinion, I do think things happen to us that we have no control of in terms of, third parties and stuff like that. But in the end, everything is coming out of you, and it's coming out of your self-concept and your beliefs about yourself. So, like, this is where the disconnect happens, because when something bad happens to you, you say to yourself, well, I never asked for that. I never wished for that. I never wanted that to happen. But there is maybe a subconscious belief that's locked away, something from childhood, something from an experience that you had, where you were telling yourself a story about who you were. And that thing on the outside was just a byproduct of it. It wasn't like a specific, I want this to happen to me. It happened to you because of something specific you think about yourself. So where am I going with this? Everything that you do comes from your self-concept. And I think what a lot of us don't realize is actually our self-concept and our subconscious beliefs about ourselves come from a place where we don't necessarily always see them, because these things get locked away so deep and so tight because a part of ourselves think it's going to protect us. So if we can't see it, we can't change it, and then we'll always be protected, which is utter nonsense, really. And particularly this last year, I've had to do a lot of work on myself in terms of figuring out why these repeat patterns keep happening and where they're actually coming from. And honestly, if you're on the surface and only doing surface level stuff, you will never really truly understand, why do these things keep happening to me? Because you're never actually getting to the place that you need to get to in order to uncover that little piece of treasure that is your self-sabotage. And I call it a little piece of treasure because once you find it, it changes your whole life. Once you find it and you understand yourself, it changes your whole life. And sometimes that can look like a little bit like a tower moment if you're into tarot. Like the tower moment is the moment where everything falls apart and everything collapses in order to show you and to reveal to you who you truly are. And in those moments, you can go into victim mentality, or you can rise up another level and start to look at it from the pedestal that you need to put yourself on in order to see, oh, why did this low level shit happen to me? For some of you, this is going to resonate. For others, you're going to think, what's this woman talking about? But it all comes down to this. If you are not seeing results in your life that you want to see, and you see repeat patterns occurring, now they might occur and manifest in different ways. It could just be you always seem to be very unlucky in multiple different ways. It could be finances, love, whatever. Or it could be certain specific patterns with certain particular areas of your life. But it's manifesting from something that you're holding on that you just can't quite see. Don't blame yourself. It's hidden for a reason. But it isn't always necessarily the right reason. It's hidden to protect the identity that you're in now. And even if you do self-concept, and if you do start repeating yourself that you're in another identity and you are this other person, if you haven't recognized that belief in you that keeps the pattern repeating, doesn't matter how many times you affirm how brilliant you are, it's always going to keep that subconscious program that's running in the back of your mind is always going to keep running and manifesting on the outside. And then you want to go to yourself, well, I told myself that I'm beautiful, and I told myself I'm abundant, and this is still happening because you just simply don't know it's there, or what that program is that's running that's keeping you there. And the issue is, if you don't do the work inside yourself, and I'm not talking about like just thinking positive, I'm talking about if you don't do the work inside yourself to really question your identity and who you're being and who you're showing up as, you will never change things on the outside. It's a fact. So, and also it's scary because there is a part of us that feels familiar inside our identity. And you think, well, we've got this far. Life hasn't been amazing, but I've got this far with this identity. So there's a familiarity inside the identity which you don't want to, you're in your comfort zone in it. And the thought of losing that identity, even if the prospect of the new one is much better, is scary. It can be scary, and it can cause us to forcefully keep ourselves in the old identity that isn't serving us. So where am I going with this? This is a good question. Michelle, where are you going with this? If you decide to do anything, for example, start a business, and you are doing it from an identity that is a self-sabotaging identity, it does not matter what you do. You will always self-sabotage, and then you'll always look and say, why did that happen? And you'll think it's something that you haven't done on the outside. I didn't take enough courses. I didn't learn enough skills. I didn't get a good enough mentor. I didn't, and you'll start to tell yourself lies and make excuses as to why. Once you're fully understanding that you are the operant power of your whole world, and that good and bad things on the outside are happening for you, you start to then look at life in a different perspective. You start to then think about the patterns that you've had, the approach that you've taken, and then you can start to think about how you change that approach through self-concept and identity. So what I've put together is a business program which teaches you all the practical aspects of what I've been doing since 2005 when I started my business, working online. And it teaches you all those practical steps, but that is like a tiny fraction of what actually you need to be doing to make that business successful. And a lot of people will dismiss this, a lot of people will say it's woo-woo, but the identity that's building the business is that what matters, not the course. The course works because somebody's built it and it worked for them. So it works. You know it works. Every single course you'll ever take works. I hate these people who buy courses and say, it didn't work. It's not it didn't work. It works. Your identity didn't work. Let's be honest. Let's be brutally honest. If you're somebody that sat there hoping it would work, you've already sabotaged yourself. If you're sat there thinking, I'll try it and see. You've already sabotaged yourself. So it's the identity. If you sat there saying this course is going to change my life and I'm going to stick at it, no matter what happens on the outside, until it does, that's the identity that will make it work. It's not the course. It's not the lessons. It's not the strategy. It's identity. So this is why now I've put together an offer where we take the business course, but we also then include identity work. So I'm going to be taking people through a journey, and we're doing this over a year, and that doesn't mean to say it's going to take you a year to be successful, because everyone's different. Depends how much baggage you're carrying around in your little rucksack of woe. And what we have to do is really unpack your bags. And we've got to look at everything in there and think, is this serving you? Is this not serving you? And then once we do that, and as we're doing that, and you're going through the process of working on the business as well, then everything will start to come together. Everything will start to make sense. Even the things that you've been doing for years and years and years, you'll start to realize why things were happening to you because of that reason. So what we're going to do is we're going to look up a little awakening process in one part of it, like a little awakening session where I introduce you to this idea of we create our own reality. And it's not something I've come up with personally. You know, like this stuff has been taught for years and years and years by Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy and all these other greats, like so many other greats. So it's not necessarily about that, but you know, there are my own downloads of things that I've had on my own journey that I'm going to be sharing as well if I feel it's necessary. But we're going to be looking at reality creation and the identity behind who's building the business, which is you, my darling. And then we're also going to be looking at how we can use tools in the 3D world, or the, you know, reality, because we're talking about creation of reality. So creation is in the mind, reality is out there, but we'll also be looking at real world tools like cards and things that will help us to show you who you are being and reflect who your identity is and what your higher self wants to guide you towards. So there is that as well. And then there is basically a year of virtual co-working space with all of the tools and resources in there, and a year of one-on-one calls with me every month. So if you're sitting there going, nothing else has worked, I don't know why, I'm taking all courses, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm doing the affirmations, I'm thinking positive, I'm getting my mindset in the right place, but somehow there is a disconnect. I'm not seeing things are not happening in the way that I want them to. And then maybe this is what you need. So I would encourage you to get this course now, because the offer ends at the end of August. And let's work on doing something a little bit different, because the definition of madness is to keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. We need to do something different. We need to shake that emotional baggage tree that's going on inside you. We need to shake that identity tree and see what falls out, and see what we need to kick to the curb and what we need to keep and expand on. And once we do that, everything will come together. So I'll see you soon.